Hello and welcome. Welcome to, I hope a little video. I haven't got a clue how long this will take because I'm doing this a bit spontaneously. This is going to be a video about Uranus, and it's going to be a video, actually, this started with a question that a student had the other day. And she asked, how can you see that a relationship, for instance, is cutting off? How can you see death? And how can you see that something that ends, actually? And because she was talking about death and end of relationships, I answered Pluto. I answered Pluto is death and rebirth. But in the thinking of, I recently read two books. I mentioned them in the video. Tell me what you read. Books actually are about Uranus. The one is about borderline times, and that book is of Dirk De Wachter. This is definitely about Uranus. And the other book is the fellow Astrology, David Cammegh, who wrote a book about God Makes His Move. And a part of that is also about Uranus. And that made me think of some, and give me some insight, I think. I hope that I'm able to, hopefully, to share to you. And it's the following. Actually, if I do a chart of someone, and if I see, I'm not going to tell very quickly, oh, you're going to have a breakup, or someone's going to die. Actually, I nearly do that. But if people do ask, I look, and it's always Uranus, actually. It's always Uranus. But seeing that in multiple ways, you see, maybe it's going to turn up in solar return or in a Venus return, or you must have some bigger, you must see the whole picture. You cannot just say one thing. And so it's definitely Uranus. Uranus is the one that cuts off. And so that's one thing. And Uranus is also about suddenly, and it's out of your control. It's but when you look at the energies of Uranus, it's quite often, when you look, why does a relationship end, for instance, or why are you being cut off of someone or a situation, it's quite often with Uranus that you've been building up, that you have not been truthful to your own self-individuality. That's also Uranus. So, for instance, it can even be as stupid, or no, not as stupid, but I want to say as trivial as a job. A job that you're in and you're not liking it, actually, and you're building up and doing the job, and all of a sudden Uranus comes along, and you cannot stop Uranus. These are you can't run away from it. And that's why people say, suddenly I was fired. Uranus on the midheaven, for instance, in a solar return, for instance, or in a natal chart. So definitely death and cutting off is related to Uranus as well. That's why people who had recently a Pluto-Uranus transit, it's like a double energy of things that are really not for you anymore. They need to go. And the more you resist, the worse it gets. But it's so intense because it needs to be so intense because it's taking you to the truth. And so when you're ready, you will see that truth. So, and another thing, so that's what about Uranus. So what I also wanted to mention about this Uranus is that I've seen it a lot also with people who have borderline. I want to talk a tiny little bit of it because I'm certainly not a psychiatrist. I read a book about it, but it was I thought it was going to mention something about the illness of borderline, but it was applied on a social level. But nevertheless, it gave me great insights. And the thing about borderline, if I work with clients, if I look at experience in my life with Uranus, this is also a trait that people who do have borderline, and I mean, you know, we can, maybe I'm going to tell you a tiny little bit of what it is. If you think, oh, I have this a little bit, you're not having borderline, probably, but you know, this mental illness, borderline, is an illness of an extreme, you could say. So it's people who come to me and who are diagnosed by that, they go to those extremes. But maybe if you have some things in that chart, you will recognize some traits there. But it doesn't mean to say that you know. Nowadays, I hear that so often. Nowadays, we're all narcissists and we're all borderline people and we're all manic depressive. It's like using those words, like, unbelievable. But in the book of David De Wachter, he says that I'm seeing people in my room, in my psychiatry, in my workplace, that normally I thought the norm is like broadening. What I'm saying here is that maybe a couple of years ago it was only 20% of the population, or 10%, let's say. You know that curve? You know that curve? What's the name of that curve? Can't remember anymore. Is it Hauskurve? You used to see it in statistics. I've studied that, but I don't remember anymore. You know that curve? It's like people who are going to the extremes. It's that pieces of the curve. And what De Wachter is talking about is, he says the curve becomes, you know, that 80% of normal people, let's say, is becoming less and less and less, and more extremes. So yes, there's a tendency. So what does that say? It says that a lot of people are more sensing Uranus energy, or more and more in their day-to-day lives experiencing this. So experiencing cutting off, experiencing, whether it is from a person, whether it is from a relationship, whether it is from a family member, whether it is from work, and so on, they are more and more experiencing this. So, but why? Why is that happening? And I think then the other book that I read of David Cammegh is about, you know, there was something interesting about it, that in order to connect, there needs to be this division there. So, and I experience that a lot with people who are going through those strong Uranus energies. They're going almost like towards extreme isolation, and then all of a sudden to find the connection again, and to find individuality as well, and to find the truthfulness of that person. So, and with borderline, it is like that people, so I'm now talking about the illness. It's people who, mostly because of trauma, or it's mostly related because of trauma, maybe one trauma or maybe more. So PTSD, or how do they call that? Because of that, they have some defense mechanisms, developed some defense mechanism. And one of those defense mechanisms is the dissociation. And that borderline has a lot to do with that. It's other things as well. You know, it's identity crises, it's emotions like this and like that. Again, probably you're saying, I'm having that as well. Doesn't mean to say I have borderline. But I mean, this is to the extremes. And another thing is feeling completely disconnected. And especially in relationships. So when someone important comes in and they feel, this has to do with trust as well. When they feel it's very important, they run away. And they don't run away just because they like it. It seems, and this is something that people don't understand. And I have in my own natal chart moon opposite Uranus. And this is, this is probably why I understand this so well. So people who've got a strong Uranus in their chart, who are these people? People with Uranus connected to the sun or the moon. In a hard square, conjunction, square, opposition, yeah, that. or Uranus on an axe, on the ascendant, on the midheaven, to a lesser extent descendant and IC. So these are the people who experience these energies the most. It's very electrifying, very nervous energy. So when they feel like trapped, so this is the defense mechanism, you could say, the defense mechanism of things coming too much to a point that they feel they cannot deal with it, they disconnect. Chuck, done. They and for instance, let's take the example of a relationship. So someone, and especially when people are young, they experience this. So someone important comes into their life. Oh, it reminds me unconsciously of traumas, or of not necessarily traumas. It can be former life as well. Who knows? But so what do? Defense mechanism, disconnect. Then at least, it's also a bit the fear of rejection, which is a bit the same like Saturn, but here it's even harsher. So these people disconnect, and then that other person of the relationship that was trying to come in says, oh, they are not interested in me at all, and actually they are, but they cannot cope with it. They have so many trust issues that they cut themselves off. And so yes, this happens a lot with Uranus in a natal chart, with Uranus, and it's very, very sad, because again, a lot of people misunderstand them. A lot of people think, they are rebels, or they just they isolate themselves because, they are rebels, and that's of course the negative side, you could say, of Uranus. But again, it's very important to know, if you recognize some traits of this, it's a bit of a defense mechanism. It's there for a reason. And whenever you've got Uranus transits happening, when it is on doesn't matter what personal planet, this comes to the surface. Whether it's your Mars, for instance, it means it has to do with you standing up for yourself. Whether it is Venus, it has to do with connections, and so on and so on. Whether it is the Moon, it has to do with your patterns and with your home life, and so on. The things that you need in your life. So again, what do we do with that Uranus energy if it's confronting us? Well, the thing to do is, first of all, acknowledging it and understanding it. And secondly, that this is actually happening to you to get you a bit out of a rut. First of all, that's what Uranus does. But also to show you what true connection is all about. What you need to connect to yourself. On a very true basis, and it's going to be something completely different than you imagined, when it's your Mercury, for instance. It's going to be not what you imagined in the first place. That's with Uranus transits, on your Mars, for instance. For instance, I can remember when I had Uranus related to, I think it was my progress Mars. Yeah, progressions are also so important. So I thought I was connected to what I was doing, and I didn't want to see, because it was so, do I trust this? And but then it's 1 before 12 when you've got those Uranus transits, and then there's some kind of a cutoff, which is terrible, which feels like it's very painful. But very soon after that cutting off, there is the connection to something that is way better for you. Again, if it's your Venus or your Moon, it could relate to relationships. There's something in there that you are so afraid of, that you will rather run away from, but that you will see. This is my little, very spontaneous video that I'm doing right in the middle between monthly horoscopes that are not going smoothly, I can assure you. But what is happening today, I think Mercury squares up to Pluto. So we are getting to the day that I'm shooting this video. So we are getting some truths here. We're seeing some truths here. And I hope this short video has helped you. If you're having, for instance, Uranus transit, it's not bad at all. It has some good things. And if you're having those If you're a person who's having those dissociations of borderline tendencies, there are also, look at what it does do good for you, this dissociation. I give you a very foolish example. You're gonna laugh probably. I can dissociate and I'm not proud of it because it feels like hell. But I try to use it now. As I grow older, I see the good points of it. And one very stupid thing, it's a little thing, but you need to start little, is when I'm at the dentist. And I was once that he said, oh, my, how do you do that? You want to make the tooth go to sleep. So he ran out of it. And I was like panicking, what? And then I said, hey, I can dissociate. So I'm going to listen to the music. And I said, do. The dentist said, oh, you sure? I said, do so. And that is the positive thing about dissociation. So it's a huge defense mechanism, isn't it? But you see, those defense mechanisms are there to show you what connection is all about in life. That's one thing. And, maybe if you have a visit to the dentist. Now, having said that, I hope this was helpful for you. Give me some of your thoughts if you want to. Whenever I talk about Uranus, I kind of feel like the electricity flowing through my body. That's the Uranus opposite moon. It's like a spina bifida, I call it. It's like your nervous system is so, sometimes so sensitive. Anyways, I hope you like this. Enjoy your day, and whatever you are doing, if you're having these traits, try them out for something positive. You can always, out of something very, very negative, there's always something positive. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.